Hello, friends. Welcome back to part 2 of the big house apartments speed build. This one's a little bit longer than my usual speed builds because I did not want to have to do a third part. I wanted to get it all done in 2 parts. So I sped it up. Lately, I've been trying to slow my videos down a little bit more. Just ever so slightly in each video. I do the speed up a little bit slower than the last video. Probably not super noticeable most of the time, but this one I sped it back up probably even faster than the last video and I cut a bunch of things out. Like, you will not see the decorating of 3 of the bathrooms. You get to see it for this apartment, and then the other 3 bathrooms you don't get to see. I also did not include as many screenshots as I normally do because this is a long video already as it is, and I did not want to bore people. And I wanted to get as much of the actual apartments in as possible. The other thing is if the last 5 or so minutes of this video before the screenshots looks a little funny, it's because I literally was falling asleep on my keyboard as I was editing. Probably took me 15 extra minutes to edit the last 5 minutes of speed build just because I kept nodding off and having to start over with the last little section. But anyways, it's done. I hopefully will have it up not too late Friday afternoon, and I'm pretty proud of this build. This one took me forever. The editing took me forever. Everything about it took me forever, but it turned out really, really cool. So I'm kind of glad that I put in that time and effort. So I imagine that this first apartment that you are seeing is like the owner's apartment. Now you can totally change that because there is one other apartment that appears to be slightly bigger than this one, mostly because of the layout, but I do think that it is kind of a little bit bigger also because of the layout, which is one of those, weird time space things. Just changing the layout makes a space bigger, if you will, but you'll see in a minute. You'll understand what I mean. But when I first started decorating this and when I was first laying out the floor plan, I imagined that this greenish themed apartment was like the landlord's apartment or the owner's apartment or whatever. If you decide to move like a family of Sims in here, doesn't really matter. But if you have like an owner of the house, and then if you have University Expansion Pack and you put an advertisement out for roommates and you rent to actual roommates, I imagine that regardless, this would be like you would pick one sim to be your owner and this would be their spot. Part of that is because I thought this was going to end up being the bigger apartment, the biggest apartment. The 2 upstairs apartments are really tiny, like micro apartments. And the other thing was because it's one of 2 apartments that has the deck on the back. So, but actually the other downstairs apartment in the end seemed like it was bigger. So you know what? I'm gonna let you choose that. To me, it doesn't matter. I just personally would not stick my landlord sim in the tiny apartments upstairs, because when you see them, I mean, they're cool. They're nice. They have all the features that an apartment needs, but by tiny, I mean they are tiny. They are super tiny because they're just made out of bedrooms. That's it. They're basically bedrooms that I had to fit a living room, bedroom, and kitchen into. So they're really tiny. Ooh, this. This was one of the other features. This is like a big feature on this side. And so I thought, this has to be the landlord's side, right? Like no landlord would rent that out to somebody else to enjoy, right? That was so hard for me to build. I've never done that before because like I don't build traditional houses very often. And most of my modern houses don't lend themselves well to trellises and vines and things. Sometimes they do, but not very often. And so I don't build that kind of stuff very often. And so it was kind of fun to try it out for once. I know people have been doing it for ages and ages, but I never bothered. And, it's really easy if you don't want it to be right up against a wall. It's a little bit harder because of all the snapping to the wall grids and everything, like you saw there. Um, but if you're okay with it being right up against a wall and like right up against the railing, then just build a wall first, let it rest on the wall, and then delete the wall afterwards, and it stays. I don't know if you have to have move objects on for it to stay, though. I didn't test that. Sorry. Like I said, I never build them, so it was just something fun to add to the build that I never, literally never do. This is the other apartment I was talking about. And initially, I thought this one was actually going to end up smaller than the green apartment. But as I was decorating and stuff, I realized it might actually be considerably bigger because I can fit a bed and a little miniature bedroom area and a living room area and a dining room area in there, and the kitchen is still like the amount of counter space and stuff is still pretty close to the other apartment. And there's even enough room there that if you wanted to put some kind of room divider behind the love seat, you totally could. And block off some of that visual space of the bedroom there. The only reason why I didn't do it is because of the big windows there. I prefer to have my windows in my living space, which I don't have in my real house. And, well, I do, it's just they don't face the front of the house. And that's my preferred, like, big front windows on the front of the house because I like to people watch. So I don't like covering up windows that way. So that's why I left it without a room divider. But there's plenty of room there. If you want to put a small room divider behind the love seat, go for it. You have room to do it, and it will create that visual distinction between the rooms. But yeah, I think this could also be considered the landlord's apartment. And it's probably one of the most decorated. Well, no, I guess because the other apartment does have the more space for the clothing. I don't know. I'll let you decide. I'm too tired to care at this point. But yeah, I kind of actually like this one a little bit better too. Oh, the other thing I was going to talk about was the light switches. So the light switches are purely decorative, and I don't get them at the same height in every room. I'm sorry. I tried really hard to get them at the same height and everything in every room, but I'm just not that talented. But to make it as realistic as possible, if there's a door that's leading outside, I put two switches. One to turn on the lights for in the house as you're coming into the house, and one to turn on the outside light as you're going outside. Now, the light switches in The Sims don't actually work, but that's just to, my own need for realism and stuff. All of my doors leading into and out of the house have two or more switches, one for an outside light, one for the inside light. So I thought it would be cute to add that to this build, and probably most of my other builds, honestly, going forward, because I like the light switches. As much as I'm a let's not clutter things up too much minimalist, I like the clutter of the light switches. It's an element of realism, I guess, and I like having that there. I didn't realize how weird and empty houses in The Sims looked without that one tiny simple feature of a light switch. Isn't that weird? I tried to use the nightlight light switches in all of the bathrooms. I thought a good landlord would be nice and do that. And then all the other switches are just regular, I think. There might be a nightlight switch by the front door too for the outside light. Just because I thought it would be nice to have a nightlight in the main communal area as well. But I mean, you could always set it up to leave one of the lamps on just really, really dim, like low, so that could work as a nightlight in the main areas as well. That's another idea. But yeah, I just like the realism of having the light switches. And here's the two teeny tiny bedroom sized apartments that I was talking about. You can see the bathrooms and what I did with them. I just don't put, like you can see them, see? And they're not even in their completely finished state yet. I kind of went back and forth between decorating the apartments and the hallway and the bathrooms. I just cut the bathroom pieces out for time purposes. But yeah, if you download from the gallery, all of my recent builds, room builds, house builds should be up on the gallery by Friday night. Hopefully, I don't forget. I've been forgetting to upload them to the gallery when I finish them or when I upload the video for them. So I'm hoping I get them all uploaded by Friday night so you can download them. But yeah, these rooms are, they have nothing. These two upstairs rooms, I couldn't even fit a single table and chair in because the space is so odd and so tiny. And I think I may have forgot a trash can in the second one. I don't know. I might have, but I did put a trash can outside. I remembered that this time for once. And a mailbox. Half of the time I forget the mailboxes too. And smoke detectors or fire alarms or whatever in every apartment. I remembered that one this time too. Usually those I forget a lot as well, but I just tried to make each little apartment look cozy and homey. I tried to keep them all as neutral as possible. I imagine that some of them do look a little more masculine and some of them do look a little more feminine. Like, I would say that in my estimation, although I could be totally wrong, this black apartment and the downstairs green apartment look a little more masculine to me. And then this apartment that I'm about to decorate now, which you will see in a minute, is yellow, sort of yellow themed. And then the downstairs, sort of orangey, peachy themed one, feel a little more feminine to me, but that could just be me. I did attempt to keep them as absolutely neutral as I possibly could while making them each, distinct in their own little way, but also feel like they're lived in and used and but without being messy. I thought about it. I did because there is a laundry room in this build and everything. I did consider putting like piles of laundry on the floor. Oh, I remembered the trash can. I'm smarter than I look sometimes. um, but I did consider like taking one of the apartments and just having a super messy sim living there, so like piles of laundry all over the place and stuff. But I imagine if you move a messy sim into one of the apartments, they'll take care of that on their own. That's been my experience with messy sims. They make it quite messy quite fast, so you probably don't need my help. I also forgot to playtest this room. I'm not sure they can get in and out of that door. I think they can. I'm not sure though, but I wanted to have at least one computer user, so I included that in that room. But yeah, I went with simple landscaping again, partly with this build because I was just over it by that point. I'm not gonna lie. By the time I decorated 4 apartments, I was just basically over it. I was kind of like, you know what? I'm bored of this. I want to move on. Let's just finish this up. But also partly again because I just really like simple, uncluttered landscaping. That's just my preferred look. It's not for everybody. In fact, it's not for most people. I find myself to be a weird one in the Sims community in liking very unadorned, simple, minimalist landscaping. Even people who like minimalist modern building, they still really go crazy with the landscaping. Maybe it's just because I'm bad at it. Maybe that's the problem. I'm so bad at landscaping that I keep it simple just so I can tell myself that I'm good at the landscaping. That's a possibility. Anyways, I forgot to say earlier, don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked this video, if you're enjoying my channel. I'm up to over 130 and that is absolutely crazy to me, and I appreciate each and every subscriber. One more tip real quick before we go. If you're here to hear this tip, I will have a tips and tricks video in the next couple of weeks for you as well. Leave I don't know, leave a little melty face down in the comments for me, but here's the tip trick for you. When you're renting out to roommates in a fake apartment building like this, or when you have multiple Sims living in a fake apartment building like this, just lock the apartment doors. The reason I included a communal room was so that your Sims could have friends over and you could keep their apartment doors locked and only allow that one Sim into their apartment. And there's no communal kitchen, which means they will stay in their own kitchens and bathrooms for all of their needs and everything. I tried to think of everything possible that your Sim could throw at you and make it annoying to be living in a fake apartment building. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. I hope you like this build and my overly exhausted ramblings. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and all support is appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.